Hello, clever people, and welcome to my top 10 worst films of 2016. Just yesterday, I uploaded my top 10 best films of 2016, so of course, right afterwards, I gotta come with the worst of them. This was the worst of the worst. We had a lot of bad ones this year, and this was the worst of those bad ones. Just a little disclaimer, I did not see every single bad movie that came out this year. I'm only going based off of the ones that I saw. I'm going based on personal enjoyment and quality of the film, a combination of the two, and how each of them affected me. So that is what this top 10 will be based upon, and let's just get right into it. Right away, I want to give some honorable mentions. Nerve was a film that for some people, they enjoyed it. I can't see that personally. I thought the ending was completely just terrible, and the film leading up to it wasn't better. Me Before You, another terrible teen drama romance film that just didn't work in any way, shape, or form. Monkey Up, yes, I watched this movie. Not as bad as I thought it would be, but still pretty awful. Zoolander 2, a comedy trying so hard to be funny and so much to be like the original that just failed in every way. Shut In, bad movie with one of the worst twists that I've seen in a very, very long time. The Boss, Melissa McCarthy trying to be funny and it just doesn't work. God's Not Dead 2, extremely preachy movie that had absolutely nothing to it, some horrible acting, nearly made it into the list. Risen, another biblical film that was just sort of insulting. It just had some of the dumbest things of this year. When I saw it with Connor, we were basically laughing throughout because there were all these dumb decisions. Again, a film that some people liked and I don't understand how. Another one in that category is Sing. Another film, I just don't understand how people liked it. It was emotionally manipulative. It had practically no flow. Just a terrible movie. And finally, the one that almost made it in there, but I couldn't quite put it in there because the main guy behind it passed away. Mother's Day. Awful movie. Just terrible. However, not as bad as number 10, which is why it didn't quite make it on there. But, maybe tomorrow, if you ask me, maybe it will be. Alright, let's hop right into it. So at number 10, we have Masterminds. Masterminds was a movie I wasn't excited for, but when I went in, I was not expecting a movie this bad. It does nothing but try to be funny, and all it does is fail. Every single joke, it lands completely flat. Nothing even made me smile. Nothing even made me want to laugh at all. Every single thing was just moronic, very, very dumb. It tries to have a story in there that just doesn't work. The only redeemable thing is that the actors are trying, but when that's all you got in a movie, you know that your movie probably isn't very good. At number 9, you've got Independence Day Resurgence. Wow, oh my god. I thought maybe this movie could be okay. Maybe it would be alright. Reviews started coming out and they weren't very positive. Then the world premiere of the movie was on the Friday that it opened, which is probably the first time that that's happened in a really, really long time. And I saw the movie and it was completely garbage. It was honestly a pain to watch. I was just sitting there throughout the 2-hour runtime, aimlessly trying to find something to do to entertain myself, something else to look at because I wanted to stop looking at the movie. One of the worst endings of the year with just cramming down your throat that, we're going to try to have a sequel, which by the way is never going to happen, and just a terrible return. I never saw the first Independence Day, but I already don't want to simply because of this one. And when a movie is that bad that it doesn't make you want to view the original, which is well received, you know that you've got an awful movie. Coming in at number 8 is Kevin Smith's Yoga Hosers. I don't understand what this movie was trying to be. I understand that Kevin Smith is a director that's sort of out there. He does some crazy things, but this movie was absolutely terrible. There was nothing redeemable in it. Nothing was funny in any way. It was just two people working at a store, and then that store has a relation to Nazi sausages. It honestly became insulting after a while. It was just the most random things that were thrown at you that were completely unfunny. The representation of teenagers were completely awful to the point that they pass out if they don't have their phones. Everyone in this movie just seemed like they didn't care and they didn't want to do it, and that's why Yoga Hosers takes number 8. At number 7, we have the horror film Incarnate. There's a reason that this film is Blumhouse Tilt and not Blumhouse, because this was an absolute piece of trash. I don't know what the directors were thinking. It was trying to be Inception meets The Exorcist, and it was trying to be great, but it absolutely wasn't. Took itself way too seriously, had some absolutely cringeworthy jokes, and some of the worst editing of the year in that just final minute of it. Just a few things here and there where characters are supposed to feel for each other, and it just absolutely doesn't work. And also, the movie should have been 30 minutes long, and instead it's an hour and a half, and it gets very tedious after only 15 minutes in. At number 6, another movie that some people enjoyed somehow, and I completely don't understand that. Middle School, The Worst Years of My Life. My God, was this one of the worst representations of school ever. It was so terribly done. All the kids were they weren't humans. They were just mean to each other, or they were nice to each other. They used Facebook. They laughed at practically anything that happened. This movie was an absolute disaster. It was hard to watch at times. It got so tiring after a while. There was one twist in it that works out well that I really enjoyed, but besides that, everything else, especially the writing about middle school, the worst years of my life, is awful. Coming in at number 5, making its way into the top 5, is Ride Along 2. My God, I didn't think that you could get worse than the first Ride Along, which is already just awful, and then you come out with the sequel, which is even worse. The actors just don't seem like they're into it at all. They seem so tired with what they're doing. Everyone else in the movie just they just don't try. It's extremely sexist. It's extremely unfunny. Nothing about it is remarkable. It's actually incredibly boring and just not a movie that you'd ever want to see. Coming in at number 4 is 9 Lives. Kevin Spacey and Christopher Waltz and Jennifer Gardner were in this movie. I don't know why. What was the reason behind them? Did someone blackmail them and they were forced into doing it? Did someone just put them in a room and said, I will torture you unless you are in this movie? Because I have no idea why these high-level actors would ever do a film like this. The premise alone is just completely terrible with, he turns into a cat and then he has to try to, be a nice person to his family and then he can come back again, which was awful. I mean, SNL has made so many skits about cats. There's, what's-his-face, the driving cat that ends up driving off the cliff. People have made fun of that idea for years and years, and instead of actually making maybe a self-knowing movie that knows it's awful, they go for a really serious movie about a cat. I saw this movie in a theater completely alone. It bombed at the box office, and it absolutely deserved to. 9 Lives is terrible. Coming in at number 3 is the Nicholas Sparks movie, The Choice. A lot of people haven't put this even in their top 10 worst films of the year. This film has actually become forgotten because it came out all the way back in February, and people just want to forget about it and act like it didn't happen. But I can't let that happen because The Choice was an atrocity. When I saw this movie, it was my second least favorite film of all time. As time has went on, it isn't that much anymore. It's more in the bottom 10, but it is absolutely awful. There are characters that cheat on other characters and they try to make it redeemable in some way. That's just filled with the Nicholas Sparks cheesy cliche romance that absolutely doesn't work. All The Choice is just another way that Nicholas Sparks can get a paycheck. He has become, as Mark Ellis and Christian Harloff have put it, the Michael Bay of romance, because that is absolutely what he is. What could be worse than The Choice? Well, it is my number 2, which is Norm of the North. Oh God, why was this made? Why does this have to exist? Norm of the North, a movie about a talking polar bear voiced by Rob Schneider that uses his cell phone and ends up on American soil and has to... What does he even do in this movie? I forgot. I completely forgot what Norm does in this movie. What was this movie? It was Arctic animals that used phones. It was people that had nothing to them, filled with cliche, crappy drama. I mean, this film was meant to go straight to DVD, and it absolutely should have. This movie is garbage. It has nothing to it. It is boring. It's an hour and 20 minutes, and it feels like 3 hours. It goes on endlessly. Connor and I watched this together, and we were both laughing at every dumb decision that this movie made. It's not funny when it's trying to be. It's the most unintentionally hilarious and depressing film that I've seen this year. It is terrible. And just as an example of why this movie is so bad, there's a scene where they're shooting a movie in the North Pole, and Norm decides he wants to stop it, so he yells cut, and everything stops, and then the director says, wait, who said that? I'm the one who says cut. Why did they stop the production, the whole entire production, if just Norm said cut and they knew that wasn't the director? What was wrong? I don't know who made this movie or why they made it, but it is absolutely terrible. Okay, it comes down to this. My number one worst film of the year, and that has to be Gods of Egypt. Why? Why does this movie exist? It's just mythology and weird things that happen, and it's honestly the worst film I've seen in my entire lifetime. I'm not going to go all into it right now, but there's a link in the description. I'll put it there. It is my rant review for this movie that went on for about 16 minutes. I ranted on every single dumb, moronic, stupid thing in this movie. And in fact, I take notes during movies. Most of you know that. I took 5 entire pages of notes on how awful this movie is. I mean, the writing, just what... Who wrote that? Who had the idea that, oh, we should write this. We should write in a character that hates everyone else and can only trust himself, so that he clones himself billions and billions of times so that he can work with just himself. Who thought of that idea? People have given it compliments for being a weird, offbeat, different movie. And how can you give it compliments when it's weird for the sake of being weird? It doesn't serve the story. It has practically no plot. The entire movie is about one god finding his eye. That's all it's about. Just one quest for a god that needs to find his eye. It has some absolutely atrocious dialogue, some of the worst acting I have ever seen. This movie is so bad. It is a horrendous atrocity. I cannot suggest this movie to anybody. This is absolute, this is the worst that Hollywood can get. I mean, you don't get a film that is worse than this. Other than maybe Avatar: The Last Airbender, there is no film that has been worse than this. This is the lowest of lows, with CGI that looks awful, just some themes that are shoved in there that make absolutely no sense and don't fit, filled to the brim with cliches, terrible acting, directing. Anything that you think a movie can go wrong goes wrong in Gods of Egypt. This is a movie that I can sit down and maybe painfully make myself watch again and just analyze every single thing. This thing is dumb. This thing is stupid. This thing has no meaning. Because this movie has no meaning. It's like 2 hours and it should have been 15 minutes. It is a pile of crap. That is what Gods of Egypt is. It is just... It's terrible. This film should just go away. Every single copy of this movie should be destroyed. It should not be known. It only hurt the actors. It hurt the director. It hurt everybody working on this movie. I bet everyone wants to forget about this movie. And to the people who liked it out there, how can you enjoy a movie simply for being weird? And if it's weird and that's all it is, how do you enjoy it? There are good, weird movies. Doctor Strangelove is one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen, but I love it because the weird things work. This movie does not. Gods of Egypt, I gave a 0 out of 10 to, and I still hold true with that. It is so bad, so hard to watch, and honestly, I know that I said I would painstakingly put myself through it again, but I don't ever want to watch Gods of Egypt again. I was either laughing or I was yawning out of boredom. Those are the two things that happened to me in this movie. It is absolutely terrible. Alright, that concludes my top 10 worst films of 2016. Guys, this has been such a fun year. Thank you to all that have been watching. And, here's hoping that we'll have another year that's maybe even more successful. We're about to hit January, the bad movie season, with all the bad movies from 2017, but I will be reviewing them and I'll be consistently keeping up with movies throughout the rest of 2017. Thank you guys so much for watching. And also, what are your top 10 worst films of the year? I would like to hear, so comment in the comment section below and let me know. I am Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.